earlier in the day on Monday, Ezekiel Elliott also joining the AFC East with the New England Patriots. He had visited them a short while ago. The sides couldn't reach a deal before he left. Now they have a deal. 1 year, maximum value of $6 million with $4 million of it in the base value of the deal. So Elliott now joins Ramondre Stevenson in that backfield. The Patriots love the completeness of Ezekiel Elliott, the fact that he is a good pass protector on top of a physical runner. So finally his time with the Cowboys over, now joining the Patriots.
For the first time in quite a while, there's some pretty intriguing Patriots news. Former Cowboys All-Pro running back Ezekiel Elliott has agreed to join the Patriots, which should not come to any particular surprise, given the fact that Zeke was seen in Foxborough working with the team, yucking it up with Mac Jones at a Seaport restaurant. So the recruiting has already sort of happened, and now a deal is in place. It's a 1-year deal worth up to $6 million. But as we all know, it's a Bill Belichick contract, so the base is probably like $1.5 to $2 million. And then the other $4 million is some insanely difficult incentives like All-Pro, 1,600 yards, lead the league in rushing, I don't know. But that's the deal. Zeke is on the Patriots. And for Patriots fans, I think the story itself is bigger than the impact that Zeke would have on the field. I mean, it gets pretty annoying and tiring just psychoanalyzing the backup quarterbacks on the team against a, first-class organization like the Houston Texans. I mean, I don't really care that Malik had an insanely cool touchdown drive against some Texans practice squad players. And there's not like a quarterback competition between the second string and the third string. That's when you know you don't have a quarterback, because it doesn't matter. I mean, I don't think anybody ever talked about, is it Jimmy G or Jacoby Brissett? But that's how dry the sports offseason had gotten, that these were the storylines that I was starting to hear. So thank God that this is at least something that has some actual, interest. So I like the move. I do. But I like it because Zeke brings some coolness and some swagger to the Patriots. On a very, very boring team, Zeke has that swag and he has that confidence and the personality. And especially on that offense, it is much, much needed. I mean, if melatonin was in quarterback form, it would literally be Mac Jones. So for that, I like it. It's a low risk and probably a low reward move. I mean, 1-year contract for a running back that's just turning 28. That was incredible a couple years ago, had a down year last year. And so you hope that, maybe things will change. But in my eyes, at the end of the day, it turns a 8-9 team into an 8-9 team. Zeke is a running back, and let's be real. Running back every year seems to become less and less relevant. We're seeing it in the running back market. I mean, my goodness. They're having running back Zoom meetings to talk about why the market is so bad. But maybe it's, you can thank Le'Veon and Todd Gurley and all those terrible contracts that happened. And I'll give Bill Belichick credit on this one. He was sort of, in my eyes, the pioneer of realizing you didn't need an elite running back to win. I mean, Bill would sort of pick up, or draft these, low-key guys, the James Whites, the Kevin Falks, the Lawrence Maronis. He'd make it work. He'd bring back LeGarrette Blount, and he'd be an incredible piece of that 2014 team. So I'll give Bill credit on that. And to me, Zeke is sort of that, rehabilitation project. But the problem is that I've already heard the comments that this guy's going to be the next Corey Dillon. Remember? He joined that 2004 team that beat the Eagles. He basically led the league in rushing. He had 1,600 yards, and that was in a 16-game schedule. 1,600 yards. That's really in Belichick's coaching era, that's really the only incredibly elite running back year that the Patriots have seen. But people are forgetting that team was a dynasty. They had won 2 Super Bowls in 3 years. They had probably the best defense in the league. And oh yeah, they had Tom Brady at quarterback. So the Corey Dillon sparkly story is, has a lot to do with that. I mean, he could have rushed for 1,600 yards on the Detroit Lions and nobody would have really cared. But at the end of the day, it sure beats having some random dude like J.J. Taylor or re-signing, Brandon Bolden for like the 100th time. When I saw this news, there was another thought that I had in my mind, is I couldn't help but think that Ramondre Stevenson must be at least somewhat livid about this. Because in a very depressed running back market, Ramondre Stevenson this year happens to be in a contract year. And that's the year where you get all your touches, you become a fantasy beast, you win people the league, you get, 1,000 yards rushing, 500 yards receiving, you make a Pro Bowl, and then you go get a running back relative bag. But now a guy that's coming in and, has a very, very similar style, kind of up the middle, great after the tackle. Zeke and Ramondre are great at the goal line. So I'm sure Ramondre's a little irritated. It's just an example of Belichick probably, hurting his contract value so he can ultimately bring him back at a bargain, next season. So that to me is as much of an interesting storyline as anything else. But other than that, having Zeke on the Patriots, as I said, low risk for sure. I mean, 1 year, who cares? I'm just glad the Patriots are spending money. But it's a running back, and it's an older running back. And it's on a team that has offensive line problems and quarterback problems. So it's not like it's going to, completely flip the script. I mean, I don't really envision much of a change in their ability to win games. They'll win some, they'll lose some. They'll do what average teams do. They beat up the bad teams. They have a couple great close games against the elite teams, and then ultimately there's some fumble at the end, or God forbid a lateral like Jacoby did last year. But that is ultimately the case. The team stays very, very average with or without Zeke. It's a running back. To me, it's really all about how does Mac Jones play. And that has a lot more to do with the outcome and everything else than Zeke's impact at this point and at this age. But at the end of the day, when I go to games this season, it'll be cool to see Zeke sort of warming up. He's the kind of guy that you'd see kids wearing his jerseys. He had a lot of, cred. He was a fantasy, top pick. He was on Hard Knocks. He was fascinating. He was cool. He had this just very, very strong personality. So that alone, I am totally good. I mean, you hope it works out and it's not like a Chad Johnson 2.0. But this team, it's worth the shot. So let's see.